All right, and welcome back to number 2 of this OnShape tutorial series. Again, everything here that I'm doing is in a free OnShape account, so if you do want to follow along or try this out, you can just go over to onshape.com and sign up for a free account and start right away. Today we're going to be going over some surfacing techniques and blending different shapes and surfaces together. So we're starting off with this kind of like abstract form, and this is what we're going to be making today. I find that sometimes it's good to just make weird abstract stuff that isn't necessarily a final part that will be printed or used, but instead gives your mind a sort of visualization of a library of features, combinations of features, and how to create those features if you encounter them in the real world. So say you need to make a part that is maybe something like a motorcycle gear holder that fits over the back seat of a motorcycle. Maybe it looks something like this or along these lines. And so right off the bat, if you know how to make something like this, you can sort of overlay that onto what you're seeing in the real world and already right off the bat have a good idea of what sort of workflow you need to work through in order to generate those shapes. So we'll just dive right in here and get started. So I'll start by just creating a new part studio. And we will head over to the top plane where we will create a new sketch. And so what we're going to be doing here is we'll first lay out a construction line. So L, select the origin, bring it up. You can see it's giving it a vertical constraint. We'll hit Q to turn it into construction geometry, and then we'll just place it down. And we'll hit D to give this a dimension of, let's say, 350. So there's our construction line. And now what we want to do is create a spline. We'll bring one point down, bring another point down here, horizontal with the origin. We'll hit escape to exit the spline tool. We want this line to be vertical and this line to be horizontal. What we'll do here is we will dimension this point to be 100. So now you can see we've got these spline control points. We can create some crazy shapes with them, and we'll just create something like this for now. Something along those lines. And we'll add another point, another spline from there down to this same point down here. Okay. And again, we will drag this, we'll make this vertical, we'll make this horizontal, and we'll give a distance of about 60 millimeters between the two. And again, we'll drag this out. So now we've got these two splines that are converging on each other on this point. That's all we'll put in this sketch for now. Then we'll go to the right plane and we will sketch the side view of this sort of arch shape that we're creating. So again, we'll create a sketch, spline. And first what we'll do actually is we'll highlight the origin, highlight this top point, and hit U to bring them in as reference points. And we'll hit a spline from there. We'll hover over the point we just brought in and drag it down to create a vertical constraint with that point, and select. We'll give this a distance of 20. We'll give this a distance of 120. And again, we'll give this a horizontal constraint. So I'm just selecting it and pressing H. And then this, we will sort of angle it in like that at an arbitrary angle. I'm leaving all these sketches undefined at the moment, so it's kind of free form, but you can obviously give these as many dimensions as you want. You need to give that a length and angle. You can dimension this point to an X and a Y coordinate. Yeah. And I'm going to create a center line here, so L and then Q to create a construction line. And again, we'll give a spline, and we'll drag off of this second point now to create a vertical constraint. And we will drop it something like that. This control point, again, we'll make horizontal. We will select the line, this point, and this second point that we just created. And we'll go up here and give it a symmetric constraint, or Shift Q. And so what that means is now these 2 points are 40 millimeters apart. And again, we will drag this and give it something like that. So we're kind of creating this like flared out shape near the top. And we'll give that a dimension of 110. All right. Okay. So now we have our sketches that we've created. These are going to drive the main geometry of our arc shape. So we'll come up here and we'll select projected curve. We'll select this first sketch, select the second sketch to get that projected curve there. We will bring back these sketches. OnShape likes to hide them as soon as you've made a selection or built something up off them. And we'll do the same for the bottom sketch, so there and there. And so now we've got our sort of driving geometry here. But what we need to do is we're going to use these guide curves to build a selection of boundary surfaces. So what we'll do here is now on the right plane, we will sketch and we will connect these 2 points with a spline. Escape, and we'll kind of give it this arc shape. We'll add another spline, and we'll give it something like that. Sort of like a lenticular shape. And then on the front plane here, we'll sketch, and we'll do the same between these 2 points of the projected curves that we've created. Here, what we'll do is we'll add a spline, bring that up, bring another spline in. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make these parallel with one another so that the curvature from one spline to the other is tangent. And then we can kind of adjust the shape of this by playing with the length of all these and the angle. We'll do something like that, not circular, something like an interesting shape that we can start using. Okay. Now what we'll do is there's 2 things we can do here. We can loft this, or we can create 2 boundary surfaces. And usually I would loft it, but because we kind of have these apex sharper points up here, I'm going to use a boundary surface to create the one half and then the other half, and we'll merge them together. So the U profiles are the profiles in the U direction, and with surfaces, one direction is U and one direction is V, and I'll show you what I mean there. So this is the U direction, those 2, and this is our V direction. So it's kind of just like perpendicular to U, but it doesn't have to be perpendicular. There's one surface. We'll bring back in these, and we'll add our other boundary surface. So the U profiles there and there, V profiles there and there. We'll make sure it says add. All right. So now we've already got some kind of interesting shape here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create this sort of handle feature that bridges across the bottom of this shape. And to do that, we'll go back into our Part Studio. We'll get onto the right plane, and we'll create a sketch. And we'll select the right plane, bring in a point, or a line, sorry, that is 95 millimeters from the origin, and we'll add a spline here. We'll say that we want this to be, maybe 65 degrees with that. We'll say that we want these two control lines to be parallel, and we can say that we want that to be around 150, and then the distance between these two, we'll say 80. Sorry, 80. Okay, and so now it's still blue just because we haven't fully constrained these, but again, we can leave those free form for now, so we can go back in later and change them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build another projected curve. So we've got our sort of one side, now we need another side orthogonal to it. So we can come on the front plane, we will sketch, we'll bring in the origin, we'll bring in the bottom point that we just created, just because those need to line up for a projected curve to work. And what we will do is we will add another spline between this point and this point here. Escape. We will distance that with D. We'll say 115 over. I'm just trying to, I've given that 115 to try and line it up to a point where it's like, it'll be around the middle of this, this edge here. We want this to be horizontal, we want that to be vertical, and we can just adjust these as we see fit. I think something like that looks pretty nice. All right, now we will create a projected curve. So again, up here, projected curve, select the first sketch, select the next sketch, and now we've got a nice 3D sketch. Okay, so now that we've got our new projected curve, what we're going to do is we're going to draw the shape that we want to sweep along it. So we'll go to the right plane, we will hit U to bring in this point, L to draw a line, we'll give that line a midpoint and we'll drag it onto the point that we just brought in. We'll give it a dimension of 10 millimeters, we'll head up to the slot tool, click the line, and 20 millimeters looks good. What we'll do now is we'll sweep that profile. So we'll do a surface sweep, just so we're still working with surfaces up top. Select all the edges and sweep it along that path. Now what we want to do is we want to cut this surface and cut this surface in a way where we're creating gaps that we can blend together. So what we'll do is we'll go to the right plane, we will sketch, and we'll sort of split this right about here. I'm drawing this line roughly perpendicular to the cross section, or sorry, parallel with the cross section. Something that just sort of cuts it right across at 90 degrees. And we'll take that, we'll extrude it over, and we'll use this surface as a splitting tool. We'll split this surface with the surface we just created. We don't need to keep both sides, we don't need to keep the tools. We'll hit OK. We'll go back to the right plane, we'll create a sketch, and we want to cut out this area now where we're going to be blending these two together. So we'll create a spline across the top, L, to create two lines kind of downwards like that. Again, I'm just freehanding all this. If you're doing this in production, you've got to constrain these sketches once you find a look that you like. But yeah, so there's our sketch pattern there. And what we're doing here is we're creating something that when we cut out this shape through this arch surface that we've created, we'll have four sides to connect to our 4 sides down here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And on this side, we'll have 1 on this side, 1 on this side, on the back side, 2, sorry. We'll have 1 on this side, 1 on the back side, 3, 4. So we'll have 4 sides after we cut that through. Extrude. Bring that through. We'll do a split. We don't need to keep the tools, and we don't need to keep both sides. Okay, so now you can see what I was saying there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 edges along the cut that we just created. And what we want to do is we want to create a composite curve of these edges because we can't select them at the same time. Composite curve. All right, now we can use those in the loft features that we're about to do. So we'll head up to the loft, surface. We want to go from this surface to the curve we just created. And you can see what it's doing is it's kind of just like extruding these surfaces in the path of least resistance together. But we want it to sort of blend a lot nicer than that. So we'll say match tangent on the starting face. And it sort of automatically selects the face it thinks is tangent, the face that you think it thinks you want. And match tangent on the end profile as well. But here we have 2 faces that we want this profile to be tangent with. We want this face, and we want this backside face. So you can see that it's adjusted there. We'll add our other loft in from this edge to our other composite curve. And again, we want match tangent on both. So this face and this face. Okay, so now we've got these sort of 2 gaps on either side that we need to fill in. And so we will use the conveniently named fill tool. We'll select all the edges, and we want tangency on all of them. So with this edge, we want tangency with this face. With this edge, we want tangency with this face. With this edge, we want tangency with this face. And with this edge, we want tangency with this face. We'll do that again on the back side. Fill, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tangency with the top face. This edge, we want tangency with that face. Oh, getting too fast here. This bottom edge, we want, I'm just going to let it think here for a second before. Okay, this bottom edge, we want tangency with this face. And this edge, we want tangency with this back face. We'll hit OK. So now we have our surface blend between the 2. But we can look here, and we can see that this is kind of still a very sharp edge. And so what we can do there to adjust that is we can bring down our split line that we created earlier and hope that things don't break. Or we can go into our loft and we can say, okay, at the starting point, I want the tangency starting magnitude to be a little bit higher, to be something like 3. So it's just creating that blend a little bit nicer between the 2. And that's most of the work we've need to do to make this shape. The rest of it is just a simple, mirror operation around the right plane. We can add so that it's creating the surface together. But what we can do as well is we can sort of connect this front edge with a little bit of a sweep, just so it's one continuous part. We can go to the top plane. We can create an arc that starts vertical, ends on that, and we want this to be coincident with the origin. And now we can surface sweep these edges around that, just so it meets the right plane, so that when we go back in here and reactivate our mirror, we have our shape, our strange shoe or bike helmet or welding mask looking shape. And that's really it. So again, you can use this blend technique in a lot of different places. Basically, if you have, say, a six-sided shape that you're blending into something like this, you just want to make sure that when you cut through or when you're bringing in your loft features, you have 6 sides per side, and you blend those all together. Usually you don't want to do something that requires that many faces, but something like this will usually work in a variety of parts and features that you're trying to make. So that's that. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.